Full Service Radio is proudly supported and hosted by Simplecast, the easiest way for a podcast creator to publish and distribute audio on the internet. For more information, visit simplecast.com. Recorded live from the lobby of the Line Hotel in Adams Morgan, Washington, D.C.
Peace, everyone, and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting live from the lobby of the Line, D.C. This podcast is where dynamic people of color in the food and agriculture space share their personal food journeys, passions, and perspectives that stem from the land, all exemplifying the spirit of activism in their own edible way. Let's get started. Peace and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting here on Full Service Radio. So, we are doing the remote thing as we push through this health pandemic. So just as an FYI, that we switched things up just a bit so that we can continue to bring wonderful content your way through these amazing interviews. So thank you for continuing to rock out with us. We really appreciate our audience and our listeners. With that said, I am so pleased to speak with Dominique Charles, who is the creator of Plots and Pans, which is a blog and platform that documents her fun gardening experiences in juicy meals that she be whipping up on the gram, because I'd be over there salivating, okay? Dominique is a New Orleans native, or should I say Nolans? She'll correct me in just a moment. But she is based here in the district. She's an accountant by day, an avid gardener, and chef all around and in between. Welcome to the show, Dominique. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. This is so nice. I'm excited.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I have to ask you, just in the midst of craziness, how are you feeling? How do you feel? How are you doing? How are you coping?
I'm actually fine. So by day, I actually work 100% remote. So this is not new for me. It's actually probably a little bit busier for me, but otherwise, everything is fine. I'm good. I do miss being a busybody and being out and about after work and going to the gym, but otherwise, all is good.
Awesome. You know what? For the last 10 years, for the majority of those 10 years, the last decade, I actually worked remotely because I was an independent event planner. So I'm used to that aspect, but not in circumstances like these, though. So I feel you 100%, but it's just, it's just the confinement to, just make that quick trip to the grocery store and then come back, but that's good to hear. I am genuinely concerned about folks. And so I don't have any fear, but I am concerned. And so I just need to do like a mental, check-in just to see how folks are coping, because some people aren't doing well. Some people are not doing well. But anyway, so Dominique, you are from New Orleans, which is one of my favorite places in the world. And it's like 2.5 hours from Jackson, Mississippi. So even more of a reason why I love to go visit New Orleans, because it's so super close to my family. And so I no time like never before, right, where we need to start growing food, It was actually been a wake up call for me. I've always grown on like a very small, not always, but within the last few years, I've grown on a very small level, like herbs. My mom will grow tomatoes. That's it. But now I have been beefing up those efforts, right? And so here you are with Plots and Pans, which I love the name, by the way. And so you actually got started, from what I read on your blog, that someone actually gave you a gardening starter kit, maybe 6 or so years ago. And that's how you got into gardening. So we're going to tap into that just a bit, but I definitely want to touch on your New Orleans origins and just talk about your family lineage just a bit. And if there are any avid farmers or gardeners down your line, and I know that there are, because I read a cute story about you on your blog, but let's just touch on your lineage a bit in New Orleans.
So my lineage is actually partially New Orleans. I am from New Orleans. My dad is from a small island called Dominica, which is why my name is Dominique. And he and my mom both went to pharmacy school at Xavier. And, they met, they married, they started a family. And me and my siblings are. My mom is from a small town called Greensburg, Louisiana. And it's like the most beautiful place ever. One of those 3 stoplight type towns. And my grandparents were both educators and farmers. So they were like the cutest couple. My grandmother was like 4'11". My grandfather was like 6'1". He's the principal. She's the kindergarten teacher. And then they own this farm. I mean, they were just super cute. And I love them. But my grandfather was probably my favorite person in the whole world. I'm finding myself getting a little emotional. But that's where we learned everything. So I guess like certain things about growing up, I didn't even realize were different until I became an adult. So like the beef we ate, we didn't get beef from the grocery store. We got beef from my grandparents slaughtering a cow. Or the vegetables we ate were from their farm or other farmers around. And my grandmother used to can things. Like my favorite thing, she used to can okra and tomatoes, and I use that for my gumbo. And she canned pears and all kind of different preserves. I mean, so literally, we spent our summers every summer as kids in Greensburg, learned how to drive on a tractor. So that's the baseline of where we came from. In 2013, I was just so blessed to be able to purchase a home in the city in DC. And a friend of mine, Lauren, was like, "Oh my God, you have so much yard. You should start a garden." And I'm like, "Girl, I'm trying to get this house together. I'm not worried about a garden." Because I'm thinking about the parties. Lauren's thinking about the bigger picture.
Okay, you try and set this up for the house parties, right? The housewarming, the get-togethers, the cookouts with the red cups.
I am the queen of the cookout. I honestly, if I had endless money, there would be a cookout every day. My dream is to like have a fish fry on the back of my porch.
Yes, for the first fish fry. Yes.
So like for my housewarming, oh no. So Lauren's like, yeah, you should grow a garden. She was really into gardening at the time. She and her mom, and she had her own platform. She's since got this cool super job that she can't really spend the time gardening anymore. But anyway, so Lauren was like, what would you grow in a garden? So I'm like, oh my God, I would grow tomatoes and bell peppers and this, that, and the third. So my housewarming rolls around and Lauren's like, I need help. And I'm like, what did you bring? And she's like, oh, I just need some help. So all these guys go outside to help her. And then in comes like, she walks through the house with like these, the great big old terracotta pots. And she has these massive, like several of them. And basically she had started me like little gardens, like salad gardens and, cocktail. I've separated types of gardens. I make salad gardens, cocktail gardens, tea gardens, etc. So she did that. And like, that was the beginning of my gardening, was in like 5 terracotta pots. And then as things started to grow, the next year she and I built a raised bed. Then the next year I built 2 more raised beds and then had a pallet garden. Then, time has progressed and my whole yard is now a little mini farm. I threw a pear tree back there. So it's just kind of funny because I forgot. I think in the moment, I didn't realize how much I really enjoyed this. And I think, I tried like years ago to grow one of those like little kits from Target, but I've found that I don't like growing in the house. I have tons of plants in the house, but not food. So that was the start of it, was, Lauren. And then I realized that this is what my family has done. And I'm not good at it for no reason. Like obviously some of these things are innate, or these are things that I remember from my childhood. And even my grandmother just passed this past June, but I would talk to her about it and she thought it was just so funny and cute. She's like, you are just so country, and just, give me little pointers here and there, because even though she wasn't able to do that type of thing anymore, again, this is the things that we've done our whole lives. So it just happens. So that's
right. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your grandma passing. And when you said that you were getting emotional talking about your grandpa, who is that who you call Papa or Peepaw?
Yep.
Is it Papa?
Paw paw. So in
Papa.
Louisiana, like, your we got kind of specific names. So your mama and your papa or your grandparents, and then like your nanny and your parent or your godparents. So I have my mama and my papa, but that she passed away in June, and it was one of those things where you're so sad, but you're also so happy because she one lived an awesome life, and then two, she's reunited with her husband. Like
That is so
that's
beautiful.
so I'm like I'm happy to have had wonderful grandparents who are, so close to us. So
That
I'm
is
fine.
so beautiful. Well, I was reading when I was on your blog and the very start of your very first article. You were that's you sitting on your papa's lap, right?
That's me. Yes.
So when you said you were getting emotional, when I was reading it, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can feel this immense energy and just
Yeah.
how close like that relationship was. Oh my goodness. Oh my
I actually
goodness.
cried writing that, and I remember writing, and I remember exactly where I was, and I just was super emotional. And then I finally remembered I pressed send to start the whole blog. I got on an airplane, and I pressed send, and I was like, okay, here it goes. Like we'll see what happens when I get off this flight, but.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that. That is beautiful. So you got a mix of southern and island in you. So
Mm-hmm.
southern and island flavors. Oh my goodness. I wonder what those flavors look like in the kitchen. I've seen some of the things, but I'm sure you don't share everything. Is there a bit of
So
island dishes you be whipping up too? Do
There
tell.
are, there are. So I haven't made a lot of West Indian food in a while. I do a lot of that probably in the summertime, but it influences the way I cook. Like obviously tons of fresh things. I don't think I make spicy food. I think I make well seasoned food, but like, I make pepper sauces and things like that. Like but lots of color, lots of flavor. My favorite, I always talk about how my favorite protein is fish. So I love to do snapper and stuff those real nice. Yeah.
Goodness, when are we coming over, Dominique?
You
Seriously.
you gotta come over. I'm gonna make some stewed chicken and pigeon peas and rice soon. Somebody's been asking me for about it forever, so it's gonna happen sooner
Oh
than
my gosh, that is so
later.
wonderful. I'm salivating over here. Thank you for sharing. So, I definitely want to talk about some of the misconceptions about gardening, right? And so I remember having a conversation with a good pal of mine, Doug, who you may know of New Brooklyn Farms out in Mount Rainier. And we were actually sitting on his land talking. And one of the things that he talked about is, especially those with homes, whether they own the home or not, being able to utilize all the space around you and not just having yards, to just mow, but like actually utilizing that green space. So really, I feel like one of the misconceptions is that I don't have enough room, to grow food, or because there are different pockets that you can find, or even if you don't want to use your front yard or your side yard, I feel like it is a misconception. So if there's just some that you want to touch on and just really oppose those misconceptions, because you started out with one, two little things, and then you like, bam,
Yeah,
grocery
girl.
store in the backyard.
It, it, it gets insane in the summer. And last summer, I think I threw in the towel at a certain point. I was like, I'm tired. I'm trying to do somebody else's yard. I don't have time for mine. I think the biggest misconception that I find, well, there's a couple. One of the biggest ones I'd say is definitely space. People think they don't have enough space. And my thing is, what are you trying to grow? Like, are you trying to have a farm or are you just trying to grow some tomatoes? So I think that people don't have to be overly ambitious. I think it just naturally we shoot for the moon. But I'm like, if you really like one thing, if you like bell peppers, if you like tomatoes, just grow bell peppers or tomatoes. So I think not getting caught up in having a ton of space and just utilizing the small amount of space or whatever the space is that you have. I think that's the first one. And I think the second one I definitely would say would be that people say, "Oh, I don't have a green thumb." Well, I mean, it really is just discipline. I think some of it is knowledge and maybe you just happen to be good at something. But a lot of it comes with discipline. Not all of us are good scholars. So we have to study and we have to make sure we're repeating said task. So if you take the time, like for me, I have a watering day for specifically for my inside plants. Like every Sunday is watering day. But it's the discipline and constantly paying attention to it's Sunday, time to do it again. So if you have a schedule for like, I'm going to water my plants, I'm going to fertilize my plants outside, whatever the case may be. But I think the big misconception is that I'm not good at it versus you haven't tried and you haven't made the discipline.
That's actually
kind of strong, you know.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. And that also reminds me of Chris Riddick of Afrobeat. Shout out to him.
I love Chris.
Isn't he amazing?
He is.
And, you know, he's such a reminder that, like, okay, he doesn't live in a house. Like, he's growing everything in an apartment. He's growing things in red cups, you know, in tiny little pots and actually food, not just like herbs and plants. And he's like, listen, if you got a window, some sun that comes through it, a seal, like, you're good. You're good. And I think that was also, well, partly it was just my schedule being all over the place. But I think I was a little bit ambitious. And you're right. Like, what are you trying to grow? I want a whole yard of okra. That actually is a really great question. Like if there's, you know, because there's some people who grow so much they don't use it and they it either ends up being wasted or they're giving it away. But it sounds like you've been intentional about what you're growing or just teaching other people to be intentional about what you want to grow, just starting out with a couple things. And you're so right. Like think about those staple items. Like what staple items do you use in your dish? Like maybe onions, you know, maybe it is a green pepper or a bell pepper. So that's super, super, super smart, you know, to as advice for those who are just getting started. So like what are like some basic, like what tools did you start out with when you started gardening?
Like literal tools?
Literal tools. Yeah, literal tools, like hand tools.
Probably like the little 3-piece set, a trowel, and I'm so tired. On a cultivator head or a fork head, and I'm like the claws, but I basically those things, and then a pruner. And to be really honest with you, so I'm kind of a hippie, you know, the Birkenstock type. So
I love it. I love a good Birkenstock. I'm with you, girl.
So I actually like to be out when I go outside. I'm pretty much barefoot, so I like to be I use my hands a lot. So I do have a big shovel and a big rake for if I'm using like big spaces. But for the most part, I only really use my hands and the pruner. I try not to use a bunch of tools. And I have really small hands. So sometimes using tools can be awkward because they're for like adult hands. I don't know. But
adult hands.
If you saw my hands right now, you'd be like, oh, girl, you in the 5th grade?
Oh, no.
So small.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
you know, I'm also a small person. I'm only like 2 feet tall. So
you are short. That's okay. Short but mighty. Short but mighty. It's all good. It's all good. Oh, and just for the record, so just so everyone knows, like even though Dominique and I had connected via social media like a while back, we just officially met each other. Like, was it a month or so ago at the Growers Gardening panel that I was a part of with DPR? Officially. Mm-hmm. I love meetups like that. But also, I have to put out there too that Dominique was a supporter of my Edible Activist campaign. What was that, in 2018? I remember that.
It's so funny because how everybody's intertwined. I saw Maisha wear your shirt at a panel like in Silver Spring in Montgomery County. And I was like, oh my God, I need that shirt. And she's like, oh, well, she doesn't sell them anymore. And I was like, who is she? And so everybody still sells something. You got some in the back. There's always storage. So I was like, what's her name? So she sends me your information. And so I hit you up and I'm like, hey girl, you still got them shirts? And you were like, you were like, I have a couple. So then this is like, honestly, just fate. So I'm like, Lord, please don't let this girl take my money. I'm going to send her my address and my money and pray she really send me a shirt. And then you send me a shirt. And I was like, whoo! And it's funny you even mentioned Chris, because I think I had your shirt on when I went to something with him. And I was like, oh my God, I've never met him. And I met her, and he's like, I have to introduce y'all. He was like, I actually think y'all would be the best of friends. Y'all are perfect. And I'm like, okay. And then I met you like a month later.
I love it. See how it works? See how everything just comes together. The stars align. The stars align. So Dominique, again, I with everything that we do here on the Edible Activist podcast, the stories that we share, the perspectives that we share, the joy that we bring, everything that we spotlight, even with Food Talks in Color, being out in the field, interviewing and meeting with activists and farmers and leaders. And, giving, times like this that just were not, we did not see coming. What message, do you feel like people, or what message would you like to send out to, not only just our audience, but those, not just our audience and our listeners, but those who are seeking to, those who may be fearful about the times that are ahead and what we're currently experiencing in the food system within itself. Let's just not even thinking about like job loss and market and economy and stuff like that. What is like a positive message that you would just want to send out to everyone right now, as a person who has always been connected to the land, like this is in your lineage, I'm sure it's more than just growing food for you, it's more than just, seeing your crop bud. Black people, we've always grown food for self-sufficiency and self-reliance and as an act of resistance. But what message would you send out to that person who wants to tiptoe into this space? And with that, after that, we're actually going to talk about just a bit some of the consulting that you've been offering out to people who are looking to get in this space, because I can, I'm sure I can consult with you and get a totally different experience, and then consult with someone else and be totally different. And I think everyone has something to offer in these times. And if, like I said, if no other time, like the time is now. So what is that message that you would send out to someone seeking to get into this space and really thinking more so about it, because, things are like shut down, but we still have the ability for the most of us to use our hands and dig in the dirt and just cultivate some things.
So it's so funny. You've said different things that are actually big parts of my life. So I pick a word of the year, and one of the words that you said that I did was, but it was funny, you didn't know this was my word, was intentional. And I try to be intentional in everything I do. And then another word that was like last year or something, but another word that I've chosen for this year is discipline. And really with the discipline piece, I think it really can be a full circle moment. Like, I'm a person of faith. And so I've been very disciplined and trying to even step it up and be more disciplined about making time to pray and just everything that I've done prior to this kind of weird space we're in with this coronavirus, but making sure I'm still doing those things. So making sure I'm disciplined in my prayers, disciplined in my working out, disciplined in taking time out to really work on pots and pans and be creative and make sure that I'm spending the time in the yard that I said I would. Don't let, uh-oh. And I'll get creative. I'm sorry, Siri. But like, sure I'm spending the time that I said I would, just in everything that I desire to gain in this year. So I think making sure you're disciplined in whatever it is that you choose to do. So whether that's gardening or, cooking, making sure you're doing those things and actively working through them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. And actually a lot that I've been thinking about is there's a verse in the Bible that I refer to often, and which can be applied to be applicable to anything, regardless of your religion, your faith. That said, whoever watches the wind blow would never plant, And so I think about also the idea of like the sailor, that if the sailor keeps, switching his or her direction back and forth, they'll never get to the destination. I think about that discipline. And during these times, like we're on that same page. It's like, whatever even though, these circumstances have maybe derailed a lot of plans, like your goals can still stay the same, your discipline, like still keep that discipline and just keep looking ahead. I keep telling myself that nothing for me, like where I'm headed, like nothing has changed, at all. Like still like, I had talked about growing food, a while back. And again, this crisis has definitely ramped that up. I was met up with my friend in the city on Saturday to get my seedlings and my seeds. I was like, all right, thanks, brother. But the plans don't change. So thank you for sharing that. That's really inspiring. And let's also talk about some of the consulting, that you're offering up, and how you can be a service to those who are peeking into this space, and being able to help them grow some wonderful fruits and vegetables in their own backyard or wherever.
Okay. So one of the things, I guess another aspect of I was growing food before I started documenting it. And I would kind of show it on my personal Instagram. And like two of my friends really pushed me into, you can make this I guess like marketable or whatever the case may be, but share it on its own space. So I started Pots and Pans from there. And subsequently, people have been like, oh my God, can you help me? Can you help me? And, my time ain't free.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Mine ain't
so what
out.
I've done is I make several different I guess like options for people within the consulting space. So I have people who I've worked with. I did a family in San Diego last summer, another family in Dallas. I'm working with a family in Houston this summer. And so for those families, if that's what you want to do is a remote consultation, we'll schedule up time, and we'll look at your space via FaceTime or Skype or whatever case may be, and kind of just, again, talk about what it is that you want to grow. What are your goals? And for someone who's doing a first time garden, I don't want them to try to do too much, because I want to make sure they can maintain it. So once we get that lined out, and I'll kind of figure out how big do you want the space to be. And then from there, I'll build you a plan. And in that plan of the things that you said you wanted, I'll give you like a full on grocery list of everything that you need. So you'll have down to the number of bags of soil, the number of bags of compost, the number, all the different goodies that I mix into my blend of soil. You'll have all that stuff. So that's the kind of remote consultation I do. In person, or if you're local, I can do the same. I actually prefer to build them out. It just, I don't know. I feel like it limits a lot of question, or if I see something that maybe we couldn't pick up in the initial consultation, I can, add to it. So I will come out to your house, and I'll go and look at your space as well, and build out the garden that you want. So the lady whose garden I'm working on this weekend, she wants a combination of like a tea garden and a salad garden. So we'll build some things that she wants to use for her teas, and some things, she has a really big space, and some things that she'll use for her, regular salad garden. And then some people want edible landscapes. So another project I worked on, a lady didn't really want it to look like a garden. Like, she didn't want it to look like a raised bed. So we did these super cool planters, and kind of, instead of putting shrubbery in them, we did thyme and we did rosemary. So, there's different things that you can do to make the space look cool and still practical. And so, yeah, I'm willing to do that. And now I'm kind of getting into a little bit of flower work outside, but I still, my baby is plants, is fruits and vegetables and herbs.
That is so incredible. Okay, I like the fact that you, with the consultation, that you're not just sending them out like, all right, best of luck. Let me know what you find at the store. I was actually in Home Depot yesterday, right? And actually, I wasn't shopping for nothing. I did my order online, pickup, because I know myself when I go in Home Depot, it's a whole mess, right? But I peeped over into the garden section where my stuff came from, because I had to just grab some gardening gloves. But they can be like, stores like that can be intimidating, So just being able to send someone with a list or wherever they go, like, that's super, super, super guidance. That's so super dope, Dominique. I love that. I absolutely love that. My other point, to the woman who said that she wanted she said she wanted a tea garden and a salad garden. Mm-hmm. She needs to be my best friend. Where is she? I love that she was so specific. I love that she was so specific.
She wasn't necessarily so specific, but it's more so when she started telling me the type of things she wanted to grow, I was like, oh, that's a tea garden. And she's like, what? And I'm like, these are the things you can use for tea. And then I've done cocktail gardens, because some people want to do a bunch of stuff that you can, herbs and things that you can put in your cocktails. So I think, you look at it from that perspective, like what works for what.
That is so super dope. I've never heard it from that perspective at all. Thank you for teaching me. That is amazing. I love that. I love that so much. Um, my last question before we wrap up. So when you were in the garden, are there things that, certain crops and things that you plant that peepaw or what do you call your grandmother? I forgot already.
Mama and Papa.
My mom, papa, are there certain things that you think about that they've grown that you like to grow, or just memories that come up in your mind when you're in the garden and just thinking back to them and just growing up with them and being out in the yard and the garden with them at all?
Yes. So one thing they used to, I mean, they grew everything, but one thing that I grew that they also definitely grew, obviously tomatoes, but green beans. And I think one of my fondest childhood memories is like snapping beans with my mama, in the big metal tins. Like that was a
Yep.
competition. Um,
Yep.
you in the country, everything's a competition. Who got the best rocks? Who, I'm gonna race you barefoot. Like I'm running to the shed. Like yeah, so probably green beans. I think of them a lot, and those are actually my favorite vegetable. I don't think they have anything to do with them, but green beans are the thing that probably remind me the most of my grandparents when I'm in the garden.
Oh my goodness, that is so lovely. Dominique, where can folks find you?
So I have a website, but I've found that I've taken it as far as I can take it. So if you feel like the information is a little dated, you probably will do best to find me on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, I'm really, really active. Facebook, I am active as well. But I respond to comments, DMs, everything there. You can always reach out. And you can always email me. My email address is mypotsandpans@gmail.com. And
Super cool. You guys need to link up with Dominique. Wonderful spirit. Just thankful to know her and just be in her space. And, I feel like, this information that we put out, regardless of how long ago it's been, it's always sustained. It's information that sustains us, for sure. So definitely check out Plots and Pans, and also get a whiff for some of a virtual whiff, no pun intended, of some of the food she whips up on the gram too, guys. All right, be jealous. That's all I'm going to say. Definitely be jealous. Okay, so Dominique, you've actually already answered a couple of these in advance, but this will be for reinforcement. So we're going to do a quick rapid fire. Are you ready for me?
let's go.
All right. So favorite veggie?
Green beans.
Right. Favorite fruit?
That's hard. Peaches, pears, strawberries, blackberries, mangoes,
She cheated, everyone. She cheated.
and apples. I love
Repeat that
apples.
again, actually. Say that again. Reinforcement.
Peaches, pears, strawberries, mangoes, and apples.
Yum. All right. Sweet,
Oh, and
salty.
blackberries.
Oh, and
Sorry.
blackberries. Okay, cool. Sweet, salty, sour, spicy, or bitter?
Savory. And I know. I chose. It's not even on there. I'm like savory.
You know what's so funny though? So I recently added bitter because I had farmer friend Aaliyah Frazier on the show a couple weeks ago, and she said bitter. She was like, "You have to add bitter." So I said, "Bam!" And so when I was putting the list together, I asked myself, should I add savory?" And I
Yes.
said no. But now I'm going to add savory. Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm going to add savory. Okay, so what's been on your playlist in heavy rotation?
Oh. So I'm already smiling. I love this song by her and Skip Miley. Slow down. Ugh. It's so cute to me, and I feel like I want to dance with somebody and kind of whine real slow as I'm doing right now. I'm like, slow down. Oh,
Hey,
I love that.
did you log into, were you part of D Nice's
Girl. Now you already know the answer to that question. Yes,
you
I
were
am a
part of the
part of
100,000?
100,000.
It was epic. It was so epic, man.
It was so good. So I was downstairs on the couch, then I got up and started dancing in the basement. Then I was like, first of all, if you have all this energy to dance, you need to be putting some clothes away. I folded every single garment of clothing I own. I put away every single garment of clothing. I hung up all that dancing to D Nice.
I love it. It was epic.
I
It
learned that
was
I had too many
so
clothes in the process.
super epic. Okay, yes, we were in the club together. We didn't even know, girlfriend.
We
We
didn't
didn't
even
even
know.
know.
I was on the
Yes.
fourth floor, girl.
I had to leave at 11 p.m. though. My feet were hurting. I had to take it on in. I had to go to sleep. My friends were texting me at 2:00 in the morning. He's still rolling. I said, okay, all right. No, it was definitely epic. Okay. One word. You've already said this, but one word, something positive to send out to listeners during these challenging times.
Oh, can I pick two words?
She's been challenging me this whole interview, y'all. Go ahead.
I'm a little child. I challenge authority.
That's okay. I like you. Go ahead.
My two words are cultivate joy.
Ooh, cultivate joy. I like that. I like that a lot.
Dominique, thank you at my house.
That's amazing. Dominique, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I really appreciate having you, and peace and blessings to you. I look forward to everything else that you'll be cultivating with joy over in your backyard, because I'll be peeping, I'll be watching. And I just enjoy your presence. So
thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. We are here live on Full Service Radio every Wednesday at 11 a.m., where you can catch today's episode on fullserviceradio.org, as well as iTunes and Spotify. Be sure to follow me at Food Talks in Color on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Are you an edible activist? Sure you are. Come join me on the show. I would love to feature you. Just shoot me a DM on the gram. Peace and blessings all. And remember, there is no culture without agriculture.